Okay, good evening. So we're going to take a look at chapter 9, okay? And chapter 9 begins on page 259 in your text book. Um, and so let's take a look. So it actually starts on page 256. All right, so it's ¿A dónde te gustaría viajar? Uh, where would you like to travel to? And gustaría is would like. The te says would you like. So where would you like to travel to? All right. So we're going to look again at comunicación. What special ways of speaking do they want you to know about for this particular chapter? And this will be on your homework, and there will be some of it on your test at the end of the week. So we'll look at the communication section, then we'll jump into vocabulary, which will be travel related and travel activities related vocabulary. Some of this you would have had in the past. And then finally, we'll look at our grammar or estructura. So, all right, in terms of comunicación, if we look at page 257 and really, okay, and 257 it starts out with te gustaría or le gustaría. So let's just take a look. This stuff is very, very simple, but they want you to be aware of it. So if you ask something, what would you like? You use gustaría. That's the conditional form, would like. If you want to ask somebody, what would you like in the to form, you would say te gustaría. Okay, what would you like to do? Okay. And if you ask le gustaría, that would be the usted form. Okay. All right. So somebody might ask you, uh, here they give some examples of people and things they might like. So you can go through this, but this le gustaría. So here the le could mean he or she likes. They don't say. So le gustaría estudiar. So you would say le gustaría, and then after gustaría, you use the infinitive of whatever the verb is that you want to know about, whatever the verb action you want to know that they like. So in this case, they want to know le gustaría, does he or she like to study restaurant administration? The next one, le gustaría participar en el ciclismo. Does he or she like to, would he or she like to participate in cycling? Le gustaría vivir con su familia en Argentina. Would he or she like to live with their family in Argentina? Etc., etc. So, and let's look at the little box here. This is really simple, but again, there is a question on your exam where they use te gustaría or le gustaría. So to ask if he or she would like to do something, use te or le gustaría plus the infinitive. So if you want to ask somebody in the to form, would you like to do something? You would say te gustaría. Whatever the action is, you put the verb in the infinitive. So would you like to go to the beach? Would te gustaría ir a la playa? And the person here answers, claro que sí, yes. And now, if you want to use the usted you form, you use le, and it would be le gustaría viajar a Costa Rica. Would you like to travel to to Costa Rica? And then the person answers back, sí, me gustaría. Now you answer back with me. I would like to go to Panama also. All right. And then they give you some examples here. Indica si te gustaría hacer las siguientes actividades. And then say whether you would like to do these activities. Pasar las vacaciones de primavera en la playa. Would you like to spend spring break or spring vacation at the beach. If you would like, you would say me gustaría. If you wouldn't like, no me gustaría. And here if you're not certain, because maybe you're very particular about your beaches, you would like to do it, but you're not sure, no say sí me gustaría. You can do that with all these activities, just to familiarize yourself with the vacation language. Because again, this chapter deals with talking about going on vacation and activities and things you do on vacation. All right, very simple, but I wanted to stop on it because you're going to be asked questions with te gustaría or le gustaría, and you have to answer back with sí me gustaría. Okay. How do you express rules? Like you want to tell somebody with a sign like no smoking or no right turns or no parking. That's what this is about. And basically in Spanish, um, uh, and you can also use it for no, like giving negative commands and also a positive commands, go forward or I don't know, stop here, conceivably, but or not really, but let's say more, say a door. Many times on doors it says push or pull. So that's a command. So there are positive commands, but generally this form is used with negative commands. So don't smoke, don't turn, um, uh, no standing, no waiting. And this is showing you how to give basically negative commands or also some positive commands. And the way we do this in Spanish is we use just the pure and infinitive. So on a door, if it says push, it might say empujar. Empujar is the infinitive form of the verb to push. It could also have empuje in the usted form, but it may just have the infinitive empujar, just showing you this is out in public, how signs and or these commands may be given when they're actually published out in public. So to pull on a door, it may say jalar. It will often be the infinitive. It may say jale, usted jale as well, but I wanted you to be aware of that. But what's really where you see it more is with the negative commands. No parking, no standing, no smoking. How do we do that? It's no, and then we use the infinitive of the verb. That's all. So no beber y conducir, no drinking and driving. No dar de comer, don't feed the animals. Dar de comer is the action of feeding an animal. Maybe it's by a pond, there'd be a sign up, it would say no dar de comer. No turning or no girar, no doblar, no girar, don't turn. Don't enter, no entrar or no pasar. No parking. Estacionar means park, no estacionar. No smoking is no fumar. To stay off, don't walk on the grass, no pisar. And don't litter, no tirar basura. Okay. Make sure you know those. There will be a question on your exam. Okay. So if you're given something like you see here, these symbols, make sure you can match these with the correct negative command. That's all. Okay, and that's good practical information to know when you are traveling in a Spanish-speaking country. And that does it with comunicación. Now let's go to el vocabulario. Again, many of you have had tourism-related vocabulary. Make sure you're familiar with this vocabulary. You're going to have small readings to do, or maybe some listening, and then they're going to ask you questions, and you need to have an idea of what's the trip is about or who's going on the trip, the things people are doing. So go through this vocabulary. But let's take a look. The verb to travel, of course, is viajar. A trip is a viaje, masculine. And here we have de viaje and Sevilla. So they're on a trip in Sevilla. They take a vuelo internacional. A vuelo is a flight. They have to go through la seguridad, right? They have to board the plane, right? If they're going to fly, abordar el avión. Avión is plane. I'm just going through really basic uh, uh, vocabulary. When they arrive at the aeropuerto, when they arrive at the airport in Sevilla or Madrid, wherever they are going, they have to pick up their luggage, equipaje, recoger el equipaje, and that's or the collection of their baggage. Okay, recoger is to pick up, or the la recogida is literally the collection of your luggage. And then they take a tren. They might take a high-speed train from the airport to the city, in this case, Sevilla, where they're going. Okay. Here, some people are on holiday in Boca Chica, the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is known for its resorts. People from all over the world, particularly the Germans and the Americans, love to stay at the resorts, particularly the beach resorts, but there are also mountains in the Dominican Republic. They're inexpensive, and there's some of the best resorts in the world. And here's some basic vocabulary. El hotel, the hotel. When you're on a trip, what might you want to do? Tomar el sol, literally take the sun or sunbathe, the word for sea or ocean. El mar, you might want to use el bloqueador solar, sunblock, and the word for beach is la playa. When you're at the hotel, you might use the ascensor, elevator. You'll have to check in with the reception, and register yourself. It's used reflexively. El hombre se registra, he's registering. So look through this vocabulary. Maybe you'll choose to go to Costa Rica. It's known for its biodiversity because it has not just sea level ecosystems, and one on the Caribbean side and one on the Pacific side, which have two different climates already. But then as you go up in elevation, because it has mountains in excess of 12,000 feet, you go through different ecosystems, different climate zones, and forests and tropical forests. So it's a great country for doing ecoturismo. And here we have El Bosque Tropical, a tropical forest. The word for nature is la naturaleza. There's a waterfall here, la catarata, or cataract in English, catarata. You might like when you el ecotourism is a great thing, for example, to do in Costa Rica. Okay, there's bosque tropicales, there's volcanoes, there's cataratas or waterfalls. There's also when you travel, you might like artesanía, handicrafts, artesanías. And here's La Guía y El Guía guides that take you about. Just some basic vocabulary. Again, here we're in the Andes in Bolivia. And there's turismo de aventura, adventure tourism. So, you might take, I don't know, a mountain bike up a high mountain and take a mountain trail. Which is these things are offered when you go to the Andes. Here's a word for mountain, la montaña. Here they're at a hotel or pension in Bolivia, and she's packing her bags, or hacer las maletas. Maleta suitcase, literally making her suitcases or packing her bags. Ella hace las maletas. He's going on a trip. Él va de viaje. Here they're going to escalar una montaña. They're going to scale or climb a mountain. Here they're going to hacer ciclismo de montaña. So they're on adventure tourism, turismo, as they say here, de aventura, turismo de aventura. So they might hacer ciclismo de montaña. And here's a mountain bike, la bicicleta de montaña, or here they're going to actually climb a mountain. So look through this vocabulary. Here's some great travel words. Look at them because you're going to be asked about this. They're going to be on your problem sets. Hacer escala is to have a layover, like with a plane. So you might, when I flew from Costa Rica to Peru, I didn't fly directly. I flew first to Panama, and I hice escala in Panama, and then I continued on to Peru. Visitar means to visit. What do you, some great travel words. Boleto is ticket. Paisaje is the scenery or landscape. When you're up in the Andes, you're going to see montañas, right? Okay. Las montañas son típicas del pasaje de los Andes. The mountains are typical of the scenery or landscape you see in the Andes. El pasaporte, a very important document you need when you're traveling internationally. A souvenir, el recuerdo. So you might like artesanía. I like that. I like to buy recuerdos for my family and friends. La visita, the visit. Cerca de means near. Lejos de, far from. Okay, let's see. Here's some different ways of saying autobús in different countries. You can look at that, but autobús is the main way. We know avión for plane, tren for train. Okay. All right, and a lot of these terms now we've had. Disfrutar del paisaje, to enjoy the landscape, el paisaje tropical landscape. Escalar is to climb. Esquiar to ski. Hacer ciclismo de montaña, to do mountain biking. Ir de viaje. Yo fui de viaje. I went on a trip, to go on a trip. Participar en el ecoturismo. You might want to do ecoturismo and go to ecological sites, ecological reserves, like in a place like Costa Rica. Or you just might want to hang out on the beach and tomar el sol, and to sunbathe. And again, here's this question: ¿A dónde le gustaría viajar? And this is with the you form because it's ley. Where would you like to travel to? And you would answer back with me gustaría. I would like to, wherever. Me gustaría viajar a Canada. I'd like to travel to Canada, for example. And look at some of these exercises. You're going to be asked some questions on your test with me gusta or me gustaría or le gustaría or te gustaría, and just see how they answer these. Okay. Okay. ¿Qué tiempo hace? Now, tiempo means time, but tiempo also means weather. So please know the weather. When you're traveling, it's very important. So that's why it's included here. And I'm sure you've had it already. Review it if you don't know it all already, because you're going to be asked about different weather conditions on your exam, and you should be able to describe them. Not every conceivable weather condition, but certainly the ones shown here. And so in Spanish, how do we ask about the weather? We want to know, what is the weather like? What is the weather like? How do we ask that? In English, it's what is the weather like? We use the verb to be. Not in Spanish. We would ask it more with the verb hacer. What weather is it making? There it is. ¿Qué tiempo hace? What is the weather like? And usually, not always, you answer back with hacer. It makes. So if it's nice out, hace buen tiempo. That's one way. There's more expressions in this. If it's bad out, hace mal tiempo. If it's hot out, hace calor. Cold, hace frío. If it's sunny, hace sol. If it's windy, hace viento. You can also use the verb to be to describe the weather. Like in English, we would normally say it's hot, it is cold. We don't say it makes hot, it makes cold. We say it is. We use the verb, but you can use the verb to be in Spanish. Don't think you cannot. But learn the hacer phrases here. Keep it simple. Unless you're a native speaker, then fine. You can use the other ones, but you're going to be asked about the weather. Here are some of the estar phrases, though, that they want you to know. What if it's clear? Skies are cloudless. You would say está despejado. It is clear, cloudless. Despejado is clear or cloudless. What if it's cloudy? You say está nublado. And so we don't use hacer here, we use estar. What about precipitation? You should know that llover is to rain and nevar is to snow. So if it's raining, you could say, you can use the present progressive, está lloviendo. It's an IR verb, so it has a stem and iendo ending. And Nevar is an AR verb, so it'll have an ando ending. Está nevando. So it's raining or snowing. Or you could say llueve. You can just conjugate the verb. Llover is a stem changer. So it's llueve. It's raining a lot. And nevar is also a stem changer. So nieva mucho. You can use either one for raining or snowing. Take a look at this section on centigrada and centigrade versus Fahrenheit. We use Fahrenheit in the US, but in most countries of the world, they use centigrade. So make sure you have a feel for this, because they're going to ask you, well, what would be freezing in centigrade? And it tells you right now. It's freezing when it's 0 degrees centigrados. See, it's 32. All right. What is considered a very hot temperature, like in the US, in centigrade? It would be in the 90s. Once it gets in the 90s, so once you get up past 30 degrees, once you get up in the 30s, that's hot. They're going to expect you to have a sense or knowledge of that. What would be an acceptable, what's a nice temperature, right? For most people, around 70 degrees. Well, it's going to be between 15 and 30. So it's about 20 degrees centigrados is an ideal temperature. They're going to expect you to know that 20 degrees or 70 degrees, 20 degrees centigrade. I'm sorry. Yes, 20 degrees centigrade is equivalent to about 70 in Fahrenheit. It's a nice, agreeable temperature. 0 degrees centigrade is freezing, and anything up in the 30s is considered hot. Okay. All right. There's just some exercises. So you're going to get some illustrations, and you should be able to say what it's doing here. Here I would say está nevando or nieva. Here I would say what? Hace mal tiempo, it's bad weather, or está lloviendo, or llueve, it's raining. Here, hace viento, right? So you should be able to identify the weather conditions. Here, nieva. Here, what? Hace buen tiempo, or hace calor, it's hot out. Hace buen tiempo. So make sure you're able to talk and identify different weather conditions. It's very simple. Okay, let's move on. Let's now go to estructura. Okay. And let's look at the prepositions por and para. Okay. So let's take a look at these. Okay. So this starts on page 265, and actually on 266, let's take a look at the actividades analíticas, where they really explain the concept. So when do we use por and para? They both mean for, but when do we use each one? And so let's just move on. They give you a little rundown of Machu Picchu, where they use it, but here they explain how it's used. So let's just jump right onto that. So it says in number 1, the core meaning of the preposition para means aiming toward. It's kind of like your destination, your final goal. You may aim toward a place, a time. So it might be used with time, with a place, like I'm going para Charleston. I'm going to Charleston. It's to a destination. It might be for a deadline, for tomorrow, para mañana, or an outcome that you desire, or your action may be intended for, or benefiting somebody or something. Para mi mamá. I'm doing it's for my mother. The gift is para mi mamá. It is intended for her. Okay. I'm washing the floor para mi mamá, for my mother. I'm doing it for her benefit. Let's take a look. So if you want to use para for a place, mañana salimos para España. You'll often see it used with salir. Tomorrow we're leaving for or going to Spanish, departing for Spain, departing for Spain. It's a destination, or mañana vamos para España. Okay, a deadline. Okay, so okay, so this is like with time. Tenemos que estar. Tener que means have to, so we have to what? Be en el aeropuerto para las 6. We have to be at the airport by or at 6. Okay, like para las 6. It's kind of a deadline. Okay, all right. All right. The desired outcome. Okay, and we would use it with a verb infinitive. Okay, so vamos a España para ver a mi tía. We're going to Spain in order to ver, to see my aunt. Okay. I'm going to the library para estudiar, in order to study. So we use it with a verb infinitive. Okay, that's why it means like in order to. And finally, if the person, it's towards a person or thing that benefits. So here it says compré. Here's the predicate. I bought. Yo compré este regalo para ti. I got it for you, para ti, or para mi mamá, or para mi hermano, or para mi novia. Okay. Esta tarea es para mi clase de química. So I might be preparing a big project. It's para mi clase de química. It's for. It's intended for. That's about it. Okay. Now, find one example of each of these uses. A para above, but let's just skip to 3. Por. When do we use por? The core meaning of the preposition por is passing through. So we're in a unit on travel. So we might be passing through Canada or going through the city or through the park. You pass through a place or time period. And so it's for a place like a park, a city. It could be a time period. Okay. Like por la mañana, during or throughout the morning. Por la tarde, por la noche. Okay. Means that you passed through in order to achieve an end. This core meaning of passing through may also be extended to include what caused you to undergo some experience. Well, let's move on and look. So if you use por with a place now, it means what? To pass through. So cuando vamos a España, tenemos que pasar por Francia. It's not our destination. It's not para. It's por. We just pass through. So when we go to Spain, we have to pass through France. El año pasado viajamos por todo Chile. So last year we traveled throughout Chile. We're not talking about what our destination was or anything. We just passed through it. Okay, it's the idea of traveling or going through somewhere. Time period. I always study in the morning. Siempre estudio por la mañana. Or siempre como por las tardes. I always eat in the afternoon. Okay. A means to do something. Okay, so if you use it with a noun, it's a mode of transport, or it allows, it's a thing that allows you to do something. So, llegué por avión. I arrived by plane. All right. Vamos a hablar por teléfono. We're going to speak by phone. Okay. Fuimos por tren. We went by train. And finally, por has uniquely meaning. Por is because of, due to. Por el calor, due to the heat, me siento cansado. I feel bad. Or because of. Decidí vivir en Honduras. I decided to live in Honduras. Why? Por las playas, due to the beaches, because of the beaches. So because of, due to, okay? All right. The mode of transportation may be expressed with the preposition en in place of por. Vamos a ir por coche or en coche. We usually hear it en coche more, or me gusta viajar en tren or por tren. For many speakers, the two prepositions are interchangeable here. For others, en is preferred. I prefer en in these cases, but you could use por. You do hear por avión, or at least I hear that used more for plane by plane than with en. But in any event, either one is fine. Okay. All right. All right. Although para or por can be translated for, there are many English equivalents. Rather than learning these words by translation, focus on the simple core meaning. Since para can be thought of as aiming towards, think of an arrow pointing to the object. Para. So vamos al hotel para dormir. So again, in order to, we use it with a verb. Okay. Vamos al hotel para dormir, in order to sleep. That's that action of sleeping. That's what we're aiming toward. Okay. No me gusta estudiar para los exámenes. I don't like to study for exams. That's my final end. Since por, on the other hand, often can be thought of as passing through, think of the arrows passing through the object. Vamos al hotel por autobús. Again, when you go by any method of conveyance or transport, you're going to use por. Okay. And then por has that unique meaning as because of, due to. No, maybe, oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. It's also used with time. All right. It's time, but you're not aiming at a specific time. It's around that time. So no me gusta estudiar por la mañana. I don't like to study in the morning. Okay. All right. So take a look at these exercises with para and por, and there will be a question on this. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's move on. And there's another area of grammar. It's called the impersonal se. And this is the pronoun se. And se can have many meanings. It can be a reflexive pronoun. It could mean himself, herself, themselves. It can be to him, to her, if you're using double object pronouns. And so it can have different meanings. So let's take a look at it, and let's go right to the actividades analíticas, and let me see. Give me a second here. So this is called the impersonal say, and it's on page 271. So let's look at it. You've seen say used for reflexive verbs, the self pronouns, right? And in this case, it could mean herself, himself, myself, yourself with usted. It can mean themselves. Okay, but the sentences above in para empezar show a different use of se, often referred to as the impersonal se, as se impersonal. This usage means that the action is indicated is something that people in general do without referring to a specific person. So let's take a look. En España se baila flamenco. So the verb here is to dance. So it says in Spain se baila flamenco. So what is it saying here? This means the impersonal se, and your pronouns always come before the conjugated verbs. So in España se baila flamenco means in Spanish, flamenco is danced. That's literally what it means. The flamenco is danced. Or in Argentina, se baila el tango. In Argentina, the tango is danced. Or you could also say it, as they do here, in Spain, people dance flamenco, okay? Or people dance flamenco in Spain. So you could either say flamenco is danced or people dance flamenco. Okay, look at the next one. Aquí se habla español. Here, Spanish is spoken, or here people speak Spanish. I prefer the is spoken, are spoken. So you take the verb and you get the is or are form of it, and it's called the passive voice. Okay, in most sentences with the impersonal say, the verb is in the third person. So you're going to put it, whether it's in the present or the past tense, you're going to put it in the LA form. Okay. And because usually your subject, the thing you're talking about, is singular. So in this case, we're talking about el flamenco. It's a singular thing. So we use the baila form, the third person form. Okay. Here it's a singular thing, español, the Spanish language. So we use habla, the third person singular form. But sometimes you will use the ellos form, the third person plural, if you have a plural subject. So you could say in Spain, the tango and flamenco are danced. En España se bailan el flamenco y el tango. Now you have a, but I'm just showing you that for your purposes of your exam, they're going to give you singular, you're going to use the singular form. But let's move on. Okay. Okay, the impersonal passive say. Okay, and let me just move on. Let's take a look here. You've seen that say is sometimes used to indicate a reflexive verb and sometimes used to indicate an impersonal action. So I told you we see say when we have reflexive verbs, and it's the reflexive pronoun used with el, en usted. El, let's bañarse is the verb to wash oneself. In fact, all reflexive verbs end in a se, and it means oneself. Bañarse, vestirse, to get dressed. Um, uh, afeitarse, to shave oneself. And when we go to conjugate it, it'd be él se afeita, él se despierta, ella se despierta. And it also can mean for the plural ellos se despiertan. So we've seen it with the reflexive verb. But in the impersonal form, that's what we just learned above. It is called, again, the passive voice. And let's take a look. Se habla portugués en Brazil. So what's that saying? Portuguese is spoken in Brazil, or people speak Portuguese in Brazil. It's called the passive voice. Portuguese is spoken in Brazil. And then they're just telling you that se is kind of a catch-all pronoun. I wouldn't spend much more time on that than that. Okay, let's move on. Here's a little section on el ecoturismo. You might want to read through some of these passages because you're going to have reading on your Chapter 9 exam or little vignettes you have to listen to and then answer questions on. So just get yourself used to talking about tourism in a specific country or a specific place, some of the activities and things that go on. Again, Costa Rica is known for its ecotourism, but there is a turismo de aventura as well. Okay, exciting things you can do is climbing mountains, mountain biking. All right, let me see. Let's now go to the last area of estructura, 9.3. Okay, and it uses again that pronoun se for unplanned events. Okay, and so this is a unique use that a way of expressing oneself that is used in Spanish. You're not going to get a lot of questions on this, but you're going to get some. And there's some verbs that are used to describe unplanned events. So let's get used to these verbs. Some you may already know them. Let's familiarize ourselves with these verbs and see how we're going to use this pronoun se to describe an unplanned event. Okay. So what's an unplanned event? Like missing your taxi or bus, or forgetting something inside a bus or taxi. You might forget something inside of a taxi. You might miss a bus or taxi. You might drop something. That's an unplanned event. Okay. Um, uh, so usually forgetting, dropping something. Um, Missing a flight or missing a bus. Okay, so missing, dropping, forgetting something. I forgot my keys in the car. I missed my flight. I missed my bus. Um, so let's take a look at these these situations. So these start on page 276. Let's look at the actividades analíticas. And here, often when we use this way of speaking of unplanned events where something happened to us that we didn't expect and something bad happened, we will use it in the preterite tense because I missed my bus. I left my keys in the car. I forgot to do something. Or here above we see somebody he he got a spot or a stain on himself. He spilled something on himself. So how would we say these things? Okay. So this is how we would say it, just to give you an idea. And we're going to use, so let's get it. Se me cayó means it's in the preterite tense. It's the verb caer, to fall. So literally, it fell to me. Se me cayó. It fell from me is what it means. That means you dropped something. So se me cayó uh, el café. I dropped my coffee. Literally, it fell from me. You may have left your keys in the cars, or you may have left something. You might have left your money in the car. Se me olvidó mi dinero. I forgot my money. Okay, olvidar is the verb to forget. Antojo. Um, it it's something that I felt like doing. Antojarse is when all of a sudden you feel like doing something. So se me antojó una pizza. I felt like having pizza. Um, Maybe I don't know, you were typing away on your computer and you break the keyboard. You could say se me rompió. Romper is a verb to break. And notice it's in the preterite. Se me rompió. My computer broke. Se me rompió la computadora. And then your camisa might get stained. You spilled coffee. Se me, um, well, in this case, it's se me mancharon. They're using a plural verb. So your pants, they're plural, got stained. Se me mancharon los pantalones. In this case now, the thing that was affected was plural. So that's why they put it in the preterite, plural preterite. But generally, for our purposes, we're going to have a singular object. It's going to be in the third person, and it's going to be in the preterite tense. So you're going to have these verbs, caer, olvidar, antojar, romper, and manchar. And you should be able to say, I dropped my phone, would literally se me cayó el teléfono. I forgot my phone, se me olvidó el teléfono. Se me antojó, usually that would be food, or all of a sudden you feel like se me antojó una cerveza. I felt like having a beer, or Se me rompió el teléfono. My phone broke on me. And se me mancharon los pantalones. My pants got um, manchar is to stain. So those are the verbs I want you to be familiar with. Let's take a look and let's read this. All these verbs use se because they are reflexive. Like many reflexive verbs, these indicate an action that occurs without anyone intentionally doing it. So caerse, for instance, means to fall down, an action that does not intentionally occur. The indirect object pronoun me indicates that who was affected. Okay, so it happened to me. All right. This can be the person who owns the object that underwent the action, such as the owner of a phone. Se me cayó el teléfono. Literally, the phone fell from me. Or we would bring that into English as I dropped my phone. Or the person who has experienced the mental state, such as the person who experienced a craving. Again, a craving, I feel like. So all of a sudden, this craving hit me. Se me antojó un café. I felt like having coffee. All right. So we're going to put these verbs in the preterite. We're going to use the third person because generally the thing we're talking about is singular. The phone, el teléfono, or un café. All right. Most of these verbs may be used with or without the indirect object pronoun. The meaning of each verb is constant in Spanish, but adding the indirect object pronoun sometimes requires a different way of expressing the idea in English. In the following chart, use the pattern that you see to add the two missing sentences. So, okay, here are the verbs that give me a second. So here are the verbs in one, and they added on a few more here, and make sure you're familiar with these. Acabarse. Acabar is to run out of. Acabarse, it's used reflexively. So here, se acabó el dinero, the money ran out. But if you want to say, I ran out of money, it would be se me acabó el dinero. So the se comes first, and then your indirect object pronoun. Caerse is to fall down. Se cayó el teléfono, the fall down. But if I dropped it, if it fell from me, I would say se me cayó el teléfono. Okay. Mancharse is to get stained. Se manchó la camisa, the shirt got stained. But if my shirt got stained, I say se me manchó. So you start out with se and you put that me in there. Romperse is to break. Se rompió el lápiz, the pencil broke. But if my pencil broke, I would say se me rompió el lápiz. And perderse is to lose. Se me perdió el pasaporte, but I lost my passport would be se me perdió el pasaporte. Okay, now on your exam, you're going to be asked about this. So you'll see a picture and maybe someone's phone dropped, and you should be able to say, I dropped my phone, se me cayó el teléfono. Now, they also, though, want you to know, how would you say you, using the to form, you dropped the phone, your money ran out, you forgot to do something. Using the informal to, how would you say that? We learned how to say, I dropped the phone, my phone broke, or my shirt got stained. How would you say your shirt got stained, or you broke the pen, or your passport got lost, or you felt like pizza? You use te. All right. So let's take a look. With antojarse, to feel like or to have a craving, the indirect object pronoun is almost always included. So here's the question. ¿Se te antoja un helado? Are you in the mood for? Do you feel like ice cream? And if you, okay, or you could just make a statement. Se te antoja un helado. That would mean you feel like ice cream. Okay. But here someone asks a question, ¿Se te antoja un helado? Do you feel like having ice cream? And the person doesn't, so they say, no, gracias. Pero sí se me antojan estos caramelos. Now, in this case, they used uh, oh, and by the way, in this particular example, they're using the present tense. But often with these, you're going to put them in the preterite. But in this one, do you feel like having ice cream would be se te antoja un helado? And here they say no, but I feel like having these candies, since it's plural, they use the plural form of antojar. All right, let's take a look at three. Um, so any of the indirect objects may be used with these verbs. That's what I wanted to express. So we've learned to use them with may. So I dropped my phone broke, my shirt got stained. What if you want to use the to form? You're going to use te. That's what I want. And on your exam, you're going to have either you're going to have an example of using either saying I broke my phone or you broke your phone in the to form using te. And you're going to have to distinguish when you use one or the other. So, se te cayó el café, you dropped the coffee. That's how you would say it. I dropped the coffee would be se me cayó el café. All right. And these are all in the preterite, and they're usually in the preterite. These other ones are for the, you could use, if you use le, say le rompió would mean his phone broke, her phone broke. It happened to him, to her, or usted, say le, you, using the usted form, say le rompió, but you won't be tested on that. Our phone broke would be se nos rompió. Here, we felt like going to the beach. Se nos antojó what? Ir a la playa. We felt like going to the beach. And a mis amigos se les olvidó la fecha if you're talking about they or them. On your exam, you're only going to be tested on me and te using this. So just make sure you are uh, comfortable with that. All right. And here is an example. Completa cada oración con la expresión más lógica. So make sure you complete each sentence with the most logical expression. And we have se me antoja. I feel like. Se me cayeron. I dropped something, plural. Se me cayó. I dropped something, singular. I forgot something. Se me olvidó, singular. And something singular broke. So tu número de teléfono, what are you going to do with a telephone number? I forgot. You're going to forget it. Se me olvidó. Tu número de teléfono. Ir al cine esta noche. Okay. ¿A qué hora? So, se me antoja. Okay. I feel like going to the movies with you. Se me antoja ir al cine esta noche contigo. ¿A qué hora vamos? Okay. All right. So, here the computer did something, but por suerte, luckily, no what? So I would think the computer fell or se me cayó. Use this form because it's singular. La computadora, my computer fell, se me cayó la computadora, pero por suerte no se rompió. No se me rompió. It didn't break. All right. So take a look at those. All right. And you can go through again some of these exercises. You should be more than prepared for your question on this section of grammar. So again, go through comunicación, look at that section on how publicly you would tell somebody don't park here. You would use the what? You would use the infinitive form and you put no estacionar, right? Don't step on this, or walk on, no pisar. Don't smoke, no fumar. Make sure you're familiar with that. Make sure you can answer a question with would you like, te gustaría, all right? No, and should be able to answer, yes, I would like, sí me gustaría or no me gustaría. Be able to talk a little bit about going on vacation, some of the activities you would engage in. If they ask you qué tiempo hace, what's the weather like, be able to answer back. Hace calor, hace buen tiempo, está lloviendo, okay, está despejado, it's clear, está nublado. Know the difference between para and por. There's a section on that. I think it's pretty clear. Be able to use those verbs, se me cayó, se me antoja, se me acabó. Okay, I ran out of se me mancharon los pantalones. My pants got stained. Make sure you understand how to use that with both se me and se te. Okay, remember the grados centígrados, right? That 32 degrees freezing in centigrados is 0, right? In centigrados. That a real hot day, right, would be 40 or so degrees centigrados, right? 40 degrees centigrade is pretty hot. Okay, you should be aware of that. And a very fine temperature, okay, is about 20 degrees. It's about 70, the equivalent of 70 degrees. Okay, let's see. What else should you know? You'll have to do some readings and then answer true or false. Very, very, I think, very straightforward and pretty easy. Let's see. All right, you're going to listen. You're going to do a reading where two individuals talk about their travel plans or things they like to do, and you're going to have to answer questions. Very simple, short answer questions. It's more like reading comprehension. I think it's very straightforward and easy. Okay. You're going to have to imagine or come up with a fictitious um, place that you would like to visit, a park or a place, or invent a place and talk about some things you would like to do there using the vocabulary of the travel activities that we went through. Again, this is all pretty straightforward. There's some listening passages and just short answer or multiple choice answer, very simple. And basically, you should be able to talk a little bit or write a little bit about things you would like to do on an imaginary trip or vacation. Be able to use that vacation language. Talk a little bit, okay, maybe about past vacations you took and maybe how they differ from more common vacations that people might go on. Maybe your family does some unique type of travel. Again, there's not a lot of depth here, just very brief answers, but make sure you can talk a little bit about travel and things that you would like to do when you're on travel. And I think that does it for this evening.